Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today's session is Introduction to Qlik Sense widgets. Our presenter today is Doug Marcus, and I'm the host, Shima Ozins. That said, I will pass you the ball, Doug. Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Shima. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day so far. So today we're just going to talk about Qlik Sense widgets. I'm sure you probably have heard of widgets and extensions and that being thrown around, but just want to get into more detail about exactly what they are and kind of walk through the process and show you how easy it is to work with them and create them. So let me share my screen. Okay. So, oops, there we go. Okay, so widgets. What are widgets exactly? Well, when talking about them in terms of a Qlik perspective, widgets are an aspect of Qlik Sense that allow you to create like custom visualizations, and they are reusable. The good part about them is you can create them using simply HTML and CSS. So like backend APIs and all of that other stuff with Qlik Sense, mashups, and extensions, there's a lot of JavaScript and AngularJS required for it. With widgets, you don't really have to use any of that, which makes it kind of easier to use. How can they help you? I'm sure you hear the term and you're wondering, okay, so what? Well, the good thing about widgets is it expands the visualization capabilities of Qlik Sense. Obviously, extensions can do that as well, but widgets are much easier to create, and they can allow you to do kind of custom branding, custom colors on KPIs, tables, and essentially your options are limitless, not only with widgets, but with extensions. I'm mentioning both of these, widgets and extensions, kind of interchangeably, but there is the big difference, which I mentioned before, is the JavaScript AngularJS coding aspect. So if you're not a coding guru or anything like that, widgets open that door to kind of make it easier for you to create the visualizations. So if all of this sounds good and you wanted to go about creating a widget, you'll kind of want to have these custom KPIs in your applications or custom tables or even just custom charts. The first thing that you would need to know in order to create the widgets is kind of a basic understanding of how Qlik Sense works and Qlik View. So the most basic part of it is hypercubes and arrays, and we'll start just with arrays. So arrays are simply just a set of data or a set of values. Arrays allow you and the computer essentially a much faster way of finding data in a data set. So in this example here, we have just an array of colors, so red, blue, green, yellow, orange. Now, if this was just a native list and you had to go and find out, okay, which record is yellow, you would probably start at the top and you'd have to go 0, 1, 2, 3, and so you traverse 3 or 4 rows already. With an array, the computer stores the indexes of these. So if you say you want to go to fetch the value of yellow, the computer knows instantly that it falls in the index of 3. Now, in a set of just 5 values like this, it might not seem like, oh, well, I could just do that on my own. But the big thing is, you know, we're dealing with hundreds of millions of rows here. So in order to search through hundreds of millions of rows, it'll take you a little longer than a couple seconds just to do that. And that's where the aspect of arrays come in. And down here, I have examples of how in coding you would refer to those arrays. This is pretty standard throughout all coding keys, even in Microsoft Excel if you have an array. The way you do it is you reference the name of the array, so array 1, and then the position. So here I'm looking at position 0, which will return the value of red. If I wanted to go array 1 position 2, that returns the value of green. Now some of the different coding environments, they might start arrays at 1. In the Qlik scenario, they start at 0. So again, this is the most basic type of array. When we start expanding this out, we get into multi-dimensional or more hypercube arrays. This example has two dimensions. I have a color and a product, and it's the same sort of syntax, but when you refer to dimensions and measures and all of those things, this is more the aspect of how Qlik would interact with this. So here you can see if I wanted to get the value of array 1, row 0, which is the first one, then column 0, that's going to return red. If I just want to get array 1, position 0, that returns essentially the smaller array of all the values of our columns. So it's going to return 0 is red, and then 1 is product 1. Now, a different way that you might see when you refer to Qlik help and stuff like that, and more of the back end how Qlik works, is instead of referring to 0 and 1, you can actually have properties here. So array 1, position 0, another way this would be fetched is you would have color as the field instead of 0, red, and then product of product 1. So again, this is just to give you a brief background of kind of the back-end data and how Qlik is going to store it. So then this allows us an easy way to go in and fetch the data. So that's just the PowerPoint intro. Now we can go straight to the Dev Hub. So now you can see, I'm sure you're familiar with this ring. This is our Qlik Sense hub. I'm on our demo site. But here you have obviously your apps, your streams, etc. What we want to be able to do though is go to our Dev Hub, and this is more of the developer aspect and the back-end options that we have. So you have all these options: extensions, mashups, widgets, API Explorer, single configurator. Today we're just talking about widgets, so let's go in. I'm going to create a new widget library. So I'm just going to call it Demo 1. So now a widget library is essentially just a grouping of widgets. You can have 5 widgets, and it's just a folder that's going to store all of your widgets. So it'll bring us to this screen. Now I'm going to create a new widget, and we'll just start with a simple KPI widget, name it like that. I want it to go to our Demo 1 library that we created, and the type is going to be KPI. Okay, so now it's creating, and now it created my KPI widget. So I'm just going to go with the consumer sales, which is just a demo app from Qlik, to select an app, and now I get a preview window. So in here you can see I can type and create any HTML code that will display here, which is kind of cool, but obviously we don't really want to do that. We want to interact with our data. So the first step is creating what kind of attributes or settings that data can have. So I'm just going to drag the data area over. Since it's a KPI, I don't want to use any dimensions for now, but let's use measures, and I'm going to allow 2 measures to be out here. Now complete. So now I can add my measures. I'm going to do just average sales, and let's do margin amount. I'm probably going to care about my margin amount more, so I'll drag that up there. Okay, so now we have our data, but clearly nothing is being displayed because we haven't told the widget yet what to display. So one neat thing that Qlik has is there's a statement here, which this will write out stuff to your console. So if you've done any web development or anything like that, every browser has a console. So here, if I go to it, this console is essentially the data hypercube. So in here, I can go and I have all of these cool attributes. What we're concerned about is the data, so we'll go straight to rows and 0. And now I can see I have these cells, dimensions, and measures. I created the 2 measures, which is what I want to look for here. And then I could see, okay, now my measures are returning some values. This is the value I would like to display. So in order to do this, let's start writing some HTML on the left, and the console writes all the time. So I'll just stay where we are for now. Okay, so I'm creating a div and a span, and these are HTML elements. And again, there's tons of documentation on this stuff on the web. So in order to fetch this value, I'm going to use curly brackets, which is essentially the HTML, Angular, JS, how to pull things and return expressions. But I'm in data, so let's just type out data, and that's the cube I'm at. And then in order to traverse all of these, I'll show you how easy it is. So data, I wanted to go 2 rows. So to do that, I'm just going to put a decimal place and then rows or a period. And you can see here, it's fetching that data rows array, but there's too much information for it to write it all out here. So it just shows me, okay, there's an array that's been fetched. Then I want to go to position 0. So like we showed before, you would do that with single brackets. Okay, and now I have options if I wanted to go to cells, dimensions, measures, etc. We're interested in measures, so let's, again, keep traversing our array just by typing out exactly what we see here. So measures, and then I want to get position 0, this, and okay, I want to get the number, so just type out .q num. Now great, right? I can see my number. That's exactly what I want to display in my KPI. So let's copy this and let's get our other measure that we had here. So instead of, I'm going to measures, instead of position 0, I want to go to position 1 and get the Q num. So now I have 2 numbers here. It's tough to see because there's a space, but I could just type that in here. And now we could see the differences in numbers, which, okay, great. Now let's start styling it. So this is going to be my KPI large value because I want this number to really pop out since it's my margin amount. So let's go. And then in the CSS styling, you can see that there is this kind of editor that pops up when you're typing to help you out through this process. But here, I want this to be very large. It's going to be my main KPI. Now, the other thing I want to do is, this is kind of an ugly number where this is dollars. So I want to format this as money. And I want to do the same thing with my sales. Now you can see I formatted them both as money, but nothing has changed here. So if I go to my most recent cube that was written out, I'm just going to do this real quick to show you guys. So we're referencing QNum here, which that is the actual numeric value. But instead of that, we want to do the QText, which is the formatted number value. So if I simply change this to QText, now I get my cool looking dollars, right? And we'll do the same thing below. Okay, so now they're formatted as dollars. They look much better. And then for this one, I'm going to refer to this as KPI small, and then my CSS, I can style that how I want. So font size 0.8. All right, so we're off to a good start. The one thing with all KPIs, though, is I want to have some kind of title to it. So let's go up here. Let's add title. Now, because we want this to be reusable, I don't want to hard code this. If I were just to leave it like this, copy the extension to the server and implement it, the widget to the server, every widget is going to have that be title. But instead of that, I want to be able to actually get whatever the title, which is margin amount of my KPI. So if I go and I could see in my arrays, I have all this other information. So I'm going to replace this. So measure 0, that's my first one. Then there's this Q measure info. So again, we'll just simply type it in. Q measure info. And now you can see this is a much smaller amount of information here, and it lists out all of the array attributes here. But all we're looking for is the Q fallback title. So .q fallback title. And now my margin amount is displayed there. So that is cool. And now I'm going to close this for now, just so we can see it on a larger screen. I'm going to assign an ID to this, KPI title, and then now we could start playing around with more formatting. So I would like my title to be bold. If I start typing, I got all my CSS different stylings that I can use. So I'm going to do font weight of bold. Now it's bolding that. I really would like it to be centered. So I give text align, center. And now I'm starting to get kind of a better looking KPI. For this, I would like this to be on the top, so vertical align, top. And you can see how that is moving. So if I wanted this, my title to essentially be left, you can see it just moves it to left. I'll leave it center for now. If I typed it right, center. Okay, and then I would also like my KPI center. So KPI details. KPI details. And I want to text align, center. And now my text is aligned center. So now I'm creating my own KPI. I'm working with the values. Now let's say I wanted to change the color of my large KPI. I want it to be green because we have a margin amount of 43 million. That's great. The big thing here is maybe if it's under a certain amount, I wouldn't want it to be green. So that's where we can start using these custom properties and attributes. So let me show you how to do that real quick. So appearance, I'll bring in the settings category. Within settings, I want to have an input field. So in here, I'm going to change this to be KPI color, settings KPI color. And now this is how I can refer to this settings KPI color in the widget. So I'm going to complete that. And once you change the settings, it always deletes what you had going. So we'll just create these two again. Margin amount money and average sales, let's go money. Okay, so now the color is green, and if I simply type in red here, it's not going to change anything because I'm not referring to this value anywhere. So if I change this and I bring in my settings KPI color like before, you can see now it changed to red. And then I can, again, change it to green or whatever color I wanted. So this now gives us the flexibility to change the colors. If I want to have a statement, so let's just try that real quick. If 1 is greater than 0, then let's make it green. Otherwise, it will be red. Now, this is always going to be true, so it should stay green. And isn't working. Let's do an RGB value. So the green and red, they do work, but when you create these, sometimes the Hypercube, if you haven't saved it, won't register right away, because this is essentially we're telling it to return a result of whatever this expression is. So let's try this one. Okay, so now it's returning green because 1 is greater than 0. Now if 1 is greater than 2, it's not true, so it changes to red. And I'm using 1 and 2, but this could be, you can use the same expression. What is the sum of margin amount? Is it greater than 30 million? Then highlight it as green, otherwise make it red. Which that gives you a lot of flexibility, especially if you're doing this KPI throughout multiple apps. So that, again, this is just a brief example of how you can start using properties and all that stuff with the KPI widget. So I'm just going to delete this, save this, and now I just wanted to go through and create a quick table using the same steps and the dimension. So let's create a new widget, table widget in the demo library, and it's going to be a table. So there we go. We have our editor again. And now I want to edit the appearance, drag this over to get our data information. And I'm going to say we're going to have one dimension, and let's just leave it as one measure for now. And I can show you how that works. So add a dimension, let's make it region name, and then I want to get the average sales for a region. So again, we have the Hypercube, but nothing is displaying because we haven't told it what to display. I'm going to go back to my console, and in here, rows. Now in my rows, I have more than just that 0 value. So I have 0, which is going to have the information. Sorry, I'll show you what. So dimensions is going to return the dimension value. So QText is going to be central. And for measures, this will be the result of the central average sales, which is 1,200 around. So that's dimensions and measures. Cells makes it a little easier where it has them all in one array. So now I'm just going to start writing this out. Actually, I want this to be a table. So I'm going to use the HTML table function. And for a row, okay, and if I scroll back up. So in order to do this, I'm going to use a little bit of Angular, which is this ng repeat function. So this is going to repeat, which creates a row for every essential value that I tell it to. So I'm going to start and go to data.rows. So ng repeat for each row in data.rows. So this is going to go through to data rows, and then for each of these, I'm calling this data for now. So for each of these now, when I'm in data, I'm going to create a table cell value. Okay, so this is all, again, HTML stuff. There's plenty of this online. I want this to be, so row, because that's what I'm calling it. So row.cells, and you can see, so now this is repeating it for every cell. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's creating all my information, cells, and then I want this one to be 0, since that's where the dimensions will be stored. And if I go to cells 0, the QText value is what I'm looking for. So that QText. And now you can see it's repeating all of my regions, which is really cool. And then for this, I'm going to copy it. And because that is not the 0 position, this is the 1 position where our measures are. So now if I do this, 1, now I actually have a table with all of my values. So I can exit out of this. You can see there's a null showing up. That is likely because I have this checked. So if I uncheck that, it's now gone. So again, this is a cool way to kind of show you how to do tables, KPIs. Obviously, I can style this as much as my heart desires. So if I just wanted to do table styling, I could do border, 1 pixel solid. Oops, shouldn't have a comma there. And now it's creating a border around the table. If I wanted to include my rows to have borders, I just add TR. Or if I wanted my cells to have borders, I can use TD. And then I can format each cell. If I wanted, say, TD, I wanted the text align to be right. Now I moved all the text to the right, etc. So hopefully this gives you at least an idea of how to work with widgets and kind of create them. I'll just show a brief example that I have in my other widget library. So if I go to Dev Hub and some demo widgets. So again, like we said, there's plenty of things you can do in widgets. In this example here, I can create different buttons. So if I want to have a reload button, a back button, forward in my selections, that's something you do here with widgets. You can style them to be whatever you wanted. You can create tables. You can even have a chart toggle, which there's this Qlik visual function that essentially creates the chart that you wanted. So if I just had sales amount, I wanted to sum that. I have this set up to create a bar chart, but if I wanted, I could toggle it to a table. which again, this is kind of neat if you ever wanted to make it easier for people or developers, or you could even try to put this little selection in here and then just toggle the charts as you wanted. So again, there's plenty of things you can do with all of these widgets and stuff, and hopefully this at least gives you an intro into what there are. There's plenty of stuff on help as far as APIs, etc., that you can use. And again, if anyone has questions on, widgets, extensions, or would like help implementing them, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. Shima, I know I took a little extra time, but I think it still leaves a few minutes for questions from anybody.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. I think this is personally interesting because a lot of people may be already doing the mashups, and in order for you to create some quick KPI object for your needs, the widget may be the good way to go instead of structuring everything in HTML directly. So that said, we will open up for Q&A session. If you have questions, please utilize that Q&A panel, and then I will read them out and Doug will answer. And while you're writing the questions, I will show you where you can get all the recordings that we have for the past webinars. If you go to the zone.infozoneus.com, you can go to the knowledge base section. If you filter for the video, then you'll see all the recordings that we had in the past. So please check it out. And that said, I will go back to Q&A. Please write your questions to Q&A panel. I see a couple of questions, Doug. So the first question I see here is, are widgets responsive from a multiple device perspective?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. It will really depend on how you essentially style your widget. So if you were putting in fixed font, say like 10 pixels of height, that obviously will not change for a mobile device. If you used a percentage or you have the different CSS stylings based on your mobile device stylings or tablet stylings, then it will be responsive. So it's just something you'll have to mention to your developers, or when you're implementing it, just be cognizant of when you're doing widths, don't make them actual widths, make them relative widths, and then it will fit on any device.
Okay, I hope that answers that question. The next one I see here is, can widgets be deployed in a server environment?
Yes, so actually what I was demoing on was our internal server. And once you create the widget, you can have it deployed, and it's very easy to deploy. You essentially just go to import widget on the server, you import it, and it's ready to go.
Okay. The next question is the Dev Hub. Where can I get it? Is it installed automatically when I install the Qlik Sense?
Yes, so you will have a Dev Hub on both your desktop when it's installed and on server. I believe everyone should have access on server, but if not, you could talk to your admin, and there might just be an extra role you need to be added to in order to access the Dev Hub.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Doug, do you see it in your panel? Sometimes it doesn't come to me, but to you? Okay.
I don't see any.
Okay, great. So I guess it was a clear session. So thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session, and we'll talk to you in the next webinar. Thank you. We're now officially closed.